Senate Committee on Government Efficiency. When we have a quorum of senators present, we'll pause, take the roll. We're going to start with Senator Fitzwater, Senate Bill 350.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Glad to be here before you. Hopefully you get a quorum, so this will count. We won't have to do this again next week. You're the best. This is Senate Bill 350, and this is basically just, it's the REINS Act. We're calling it the REINS Act, which basically wants to rein in regulation, which is perfect for you, Madam Chair. I know this is a big priority for you. But I think the desire, I know the desire of this is just basically say if this is going to cost, if regulations are going to cost more than $250,000, then the legislature ought to have some authority over it. And that is the heart of it. I don't think it needs to go much deeper than that as far as an explanation of the underlying bill. I think there's some changes. I've talked with Americans for Prosperity, and I think they're going to come up and talk about this a little bit, and some changes they'd like to see. First, that that for any increase in expenditure, obviously you want to review, but a decrease in cost, which is in the bill, any decrease of that funding too needs approval. I think we could probably remove that. I don't have any problem with that. Obviously, we're reducing the size. Yeah, I'm fine with that. The budget impact, make sure that it's not just for the state budget, but certainly for private enterprise. You want to make sure that it's having that impact too. Happy to expand it to that level. This is just kind of a placeholder, like how do I get to functionally reining in regulation? So I'm happy to expand it to that. There's also some discussion about any exclusion for rules that are required to comply with federal law. We want to make sure we're not overstepping our bounds a little bit, but also how does that look in going forward? Also exclusion for emergency rules. Want to make sure that the governor has every authority in situations to handle hard things that may come to the state. So that's another piece. And then I think that's about it on the AFP's stuff, and I think they come up and talk about it too. I think the timing too, we're only in session 4.5 months a year. The governor obviously can call a special session. We can call one with a certain majority of the legislature. But I think if they want to do big time rules, they should do it during session that have significant impact on the state budget or private entities. Then do it while we're around and have that impact. If not, I'm not real concerned about the timing questions there may be on the bill. So glad to take any questions. I'm happy to.
I was glad to hear your clarification about the removal. That was my top question. And then secondarily, I have had some people complain about timing, and I concur with you. Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Senator Lewis, did you have any questions other than just a full repeat of the presentation? No, you're great.
Yeah, well, my bill, Senator, is just the REINS Act. So any regulation that costs over $250,000 would have to be approved by the legislature. Just think it's a pretty significant consideration for the growth and size of government and rules that impact not only the state budget but private sector.
Thank you. First witness in support, please come forward. I'm so sorry. We're going to go ahead and pause and take roll call. Madam Secretary, if you'd please call the roll.
Senators Coleman.
Here.
Hudson.
Here.
Bean. Brown. Carter. Lewis. Williams.
With 4 members present, we have a quorum, and your bill will officially be counted as having occurred during our meeting. So thank you. Proceed when you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. My name is Jim Manley. I'm the state policy chief for Pacific Legal Foundation. PLF is a nonprofit law firm that litigates in defense of private property rights, separation of powers, and equality and opportunity. And I direct our work in the state legislatures to reinforce that litigation campaign in defense of the Constitution. We've won 18 cases at the U.S. Supreme Court, many of them involving the protection of private property. and we've helped to enact over 36 laws across the country. Our interest in separation of powers is obviously the reason that we're here today. The REINS Act is a reinforcement of the separation of powers and a pushback against the expansion of the administrative state, which is the most pressing threat to liberty that we face. I litigated constitutional issues for 15 years. The Bill of Rights is a wonderful protection for individual liberty, but it pales in comparison to the protections that are provided by that structure of government, where the powers of government are distributed among three branches that don't invade each other. And when the administrative state has the power to set extremely expensive policy for the state without any oversight from the legislature, that erodes the separation of powers, and this bill helps to enhance that and restore that separation so that the legislative power remains with the legislature and not with unelected agencies. We've helped to enact laws like this in other states, most recently in Kansas. The Kansas bill is very similar to this bill in many ways. It requires the legislature to approve rules that have a large monetary impact. The Kansas threshold is actually lower. It's $1 million over 5 years, so $50,000 per year lower than this threshold. I don't think that's a knock against this bill at all. I just wanted to place it in the context of what other states are doing. And there are many states that approve all rules. West Virginia approves every single rule regardless of the fiscal impact. And as does Idaho. There's some context here that I'd be happy to provide in terms of of where this issue fits into Missouri's legal landscape. The Missouri Supreme Court has looked at the issue of legislative oversight of rulemaking in the past, and what the court has said is that if the legislature is going to exercise oversight over rulemaking, it needs to do so through a legislative process. So this bill respects that process that the court has laid out by requiring a concurrent resolution signed by the governor to authorize these rules with large monetary impacts. So I think this rule fits very neatly into the framework that the Missouri Supreme Court has laid out for legislative oversight of executive rules. And I think the changes that Senator Fitzwater suggested at the introduction are good, and we would be excited to see those changes and to support the bill as it moves forward. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, next witness in support.
Camelia Peterson with Americans for Prosperity, and the REINS Act legislation we are very happy to see moving this year is a high priority for us, and for the same reasons that the gentleman with Pacific Legal just talked about, as far as they're maintaining that checks and balances in government. And I think one of the things that gets raised is, well, we have JCAR, so we already have something, but part of the issue is that with JCAR, it takes somebody bringing the issue forward, within a certain time frame, parameters. And so we would like to, because that is so reliant on somebody paying close enough attention to actually catch it and then do something about it, this would create some automatic triggers that then would, bring that to the attention of the legislative body. So I think that this is good, and also the hope is that that we're not doing a lot of constant work on things, and that it will encourage agencies to create rules that are kind of in accordance with this to keep our costs down. And some of the changes that were talked about, as far as the $250,000, the impact on budgetary, but also some of the changes that were talked about as far as the regulatory impact as well, in measuring that. So there are lots of states that are working on this same legislation this year. We've had good conversations also on the House side with the representative that is bringing the bill over there, as well as with the Speaker's Council. And so I think that everything is really being considered, including the things that you raised, to do this in a way that works for the legislature and for the agencies and is well thought out.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness? Seeing none. Next in support.
you.
Anyone here in opposition? For informational purposes only?
Hello, I'm not close enough. My name is Sarah Shappy. I am the director of the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules. For those of you who I haven't got to meet yet, I've been in that position for a couple of years. I am a lawyer. I've worked in administrative law in various positions in the state for a little over 10 years now. I just wanted to provide some information on what the current version of the bill has you taking on. We keep a database of the rules that are filed, and included in that is the fiscal notes for them. Currently, if we look at the last 2 years, you're talking about between 20 and 30 bills that have public fiscal notes above $250,000. I can get different numbers if the bill changes and let you know what those would be too. If you move it up and down, or you exclude bills that, or rules that are saving money and not costing money, and so forth. I'm also happy to answer any questions about the rulemaking process as it stands today and how this might fit into that.
Can you get us the list of what it would be if we opt out? Because I think that seems like a fairly likely change, that we won't have
Yes.
savings bills included. And then if you just work with the bill sponsor to get where he's thinking that might end up, to get us the range of information, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. And we can run a couple different scenarios if that would help you.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions for this witness? Seeing none. Oh, go ahead.
So when you say, just help me understand, when you say, and I read the bill and everything, and I do apologize again for being late, but when we would take up about 20 to 30 bills, that means additional bills that have to pass both chambers, has to go through, like, tell me, explain that process.
Yes, so that number, last year, there were 21 rules, as the bill is now written, as I understand it, that would require bills to pass, that would pass both chambers and then have to be signed. The year before that, there were 29. There were more that year, partially because all of the marijuana regulations went into effect, and that was a big chunk of rules, and those had pretty large price tags for the most part. I mean, whether you do those all as one bill or separately, I don't know, but it would be between 20 and 30 every year of rules that would need to be approved.
And are the rules like happening all the time throughout the calendar year?
Yes.
So is there a potential that we'd have to come, like, if we're not in session, or it'd have to, like, wait till we're in session?
Currently, we do get rules all throughout the year, and when I get my list for you, I'll put the dates that they came in. Some of those dates are tied to things like federal programs and federal funding. Some of them are tied to legislation being enacted, and some of them are just when the departments decided to do something, and that's their internal process, and I'm not sure I can tell you why they pick when they pick. We usually do see an uptick around the 1st of September when new legislation goes into effect. Other than that, it's very variable about when things are filed, but we do get rules year-round, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Senator Carter.
How do you anticipate this changing rules and regs that businesses kind of rely on when they have to turn around pretty quickly? Do you have an estimate on how that might impact?
I don't really. I know a lot about rulemaking procedures. I don't know a lot about running businesses, so I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer that question. You know, any change in the process would have the potential to delay or speed up implementation of rules, which could affect them depending on what the rules are. A lot of the rules with these big price tags do have to do with healthcare in some fashion or another. You'll see that when I send the list, either through Medicaid or through other programs that are providing health services or impacting healthcare workers.
Yeah, and there might be a question I can ask the bill sponsor, your experts, the witnesses that you've talked to, in regards to the other states that are implementing it, what it might look like. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Any other witnesses for informational purposes only? Seeing none, Senator, this concludes the hearing on Senate Bill number 350 and the hearing on government efficiency.